Welcome to Recovery Live on a Wednesday. Glad you guys are here. I wonder if you're sitting at a table, you want to come on up here and hang out with us in this little section right here. Would love that very much. I'd appreciate it. And my name is John. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus, and I do struggle with some codependency and anger at times and all kinds of other things. So glad you guys are here. And I was thinking about this song that we're going to sing. It's called Scandal of Grace. That faith for me sometimes, I don't know where you guys are at in your walk with God, but faith for me at times is really, really strong, where I feel really connected to God. And then sometimes it's a little weaker. Anybody been there where it's a little bit weaker? It's just not quite. I mean, I want to say that I'm always on fire for Jesus and never doubt, but there's this scripture. It's in John, I think it's in John 6, and Jesus just gets kind of done telling his followers, a whole bunch of people, his greater followers, the larger crowd, some hard things. It says he told them some hard things, and a bunch of them abandoned him. They just left. They said, that's a little too tough to hear. And so he goes to the 12 and he says, are you going to leave me too? And I love the answer. It's not really like, no, we're totally committed. We're all in. We believe in you. They kind of say, we really don't have any other place to go. And I feel like that's it for me sometimes. It's like, what are my options here? There is no better option, man. I've seen the light. I've seen what Jesus has to offer. And the world does not have anything better to offer. I don't know, sometimes I go down the wrong path at times and start to kind of go down into some old areas, but ultimately I'm just like, I remember how empty that is, man. And so the disciple eventually says, where else are we going to go? You have the words of life. You've got the words of life. I think some people today, you just need the words of life, man. You need somebody to speak life into you. And so I wonder if you just close your eyes and just let Jesus speak those words of life into you. Maybe that's where you're just at a desperate place. You just say, man, I got nowhere else to go. I don't have any other options. Jesus, will you speak the words of life into me? I believe that you sacrificed yourself for me. I believe it. I've heard you speak to me before. I'm counting on you to do it again. I'm kind of in a dark place. I'm in a desperate place. And I believe you have the words of life, Jesus. That's what I believe. That's where my faith is today. And that's enough. That is enough. So thank you for your grace. We receive it. We receive what you have for us, Jesus. Grace, what have you done? Murder for me on that cross. Accused, absence of wrong. Sin washed away in your blood. Too much to make sense of it all. I know that your love breaks my fall. Scandal of grace, you died in my place, that my soul relieved. Oh, to be like you, give all I have just to know you. Jesus, there's no one beside you. Forever the hope in my heart. Death, where is your sting? Your power is dead as my sin. The cross has taught me to live. Mercy, my heart now to sing. The day and its troubles will come. I know that your strength is enough. Scandal of grace, you died in my place, that my soul will live. Oh, to be like Give all I have just to know you. Jesus, there's no one beside you. Forever the hope in my heart. Oh, to be like you. Give all I have just to know you. Jesus, there's no one beside you. Forever the hope in my heart. And it's all because of you, Jesus. It's all because of you, Jesus. It's all because of your love that my soul will live. Sing it's all. And it's all because of you, Jesus. It's all because of you, Jesus. It's all because of your love that my soul will live. Oh, to be like you. Give all I have just to know you. Jesus, there's no one beside you. Forever the hope in my heart. Oh, to be like you. Give all I have just to know you. Jesus, there's no one beside you. Forever the hope in my heart. It is all because of you that my soul can live. I just believe that. And I believe today that you have the words of life, and I pray they come out of me and they encourage the people that are in this room. In Jesus' name, everybody said. All right, why don't you find somebody you don't know and like give them a high five or a hug or a handshake or, yeah. Okay. Listen, I'm about to try to convince you of something in step one that is just not an easy task. And that is, it is much better to be weak and vulnerable and helpless and struggling and frustrated and in pain and suffering than it is to be strong and full of joy and functioning at a high level and having everything figured out. I just want you to pray for me, because this is a tough task for me to convince you of these things. But I just want you to know it doesn't come out of me. It's what the Bible says, and it's what I've experienced and what a whole lot of people around you have experienced, is that God's power is made perfect in your weakness. But this is a hard ask, Pastor Glenn. Isn't this a hard ask for you to believe that what I'm telling you is true? So if this is all new to you, These are the 12 steps. We are January starting out with step 1. And if you're somebody who wants to start over, start again, you're at a really good place, January, to go, you know what, I want to do something a little different than I've done it maybe in the past years or ever in my life. And so we are going to be talking about that. Really, the first step is the beginning of every single journey that you ever take, no matter how long, how far. And I really want to focus on one small step that you can take to begin your process of recovery today. And I'm an optimist. Anybody in here an optimist? Like, you're almost like a fatal optimist. People are like, stop smiling, life sucks. Or you might be on the other side. You say, I'm not a pessimist, I'm a realist, right? You're that person where you're like, it's not pessimism, I'm just realistic. Fine. But you're the glass is half what? Empty, not full. Yeah. And so I'm definitely an optimist, and so I love new beginnings, but I even think people are a little pessimistic. You like to know that his mercy is new every morning, that God is a God of new beginnings, and it's never too late to start over. And I just want to convince you of that today, and that how you start over always begins with the first step. And for us, the first step of the 12 steps is going to be something that we're going to be talking about, and even the first step in the first step. And you can find all this information in the Recovery Life Handbook. It's some, if you don't have, that we're going to be doing a lot. We're going to spend a lot of time in this book throughout this year. It's something we want you to connect to. Here at Recovery Life, we want you to connect to 3 P's: the power of God. We want you to connect to save and support people. And we want you to connect to a process that can help you to progress, to move forward in your life, to be successful in who you are and the work that you do, to be better in your relationships, to gain sobriety, to gain a place where maybe your depression or anxiety starts to find some relief. But this is the first step of all first steps. And we're going to go over this thing today in our time here today. We are on the power of weakness. Here is the first step. We admitted. Would you guys mind? I know this is a thing that a lot of maybe preachers do, but I'm just going to ask you to say admitted. Would you just say admitted really out loud? Would you mind saying it? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Admitted. I admitted. I will admit it. I will admit that I am what? Powerless. I admit that I'm powerless and my life had become unmanageable. Romans 7 is a really important recovery chapter. Paul says this: I want to do what's right, but I can't. And I ask this a lot. Can you relate to that? Can you relate to Paul when he says, the things I want to do, I don't do. And the things I don't want to do, those are the things that I keep on doing. What a wretched man I am. Who will save me from this body of death? Has anybody felt like that before? You're just trying to do the right thing and you can't. That's what Paul's saying. He's relating to us. This is highly relatable. It's the human condition that even when I think it's the best thing to do, the healthiest thing to do, the right thing to do, I just find that I don't do it. I just keep eating the fries, even though I'm like, I'm gonna eat half of these fries. I don't eat half the fries, I eat all the fries. Everybody know what I'm saying? That I don't, like I wanna go 55 miles an hour, but I find myself going 85 miles an hour and being 3 inches away from the guy that is in the left lane who should be going either faster or get out of the way. You know what I'm saying? And I wanna not do that because I've got recoveryalive.com on my truck, which is not a good idea if you are being a jerk and driving. What I should do is put like the rival church down the street's name on my truck. That would be a better idea. But so we do these things that we like. I know I shouldn't do this thing, but I keep on doing it. I keep picking up that drink and I keep using, or I keep saying those harsh things to people. I find myself doing this thing and I can, like inside my head, I'm going, stop it. Don't do that. Or I say, this time I won't do it, but I do it. Is that relatable to everybody in this room? Okay, well, 1 or 2 of you. And the rest of you, help us really screwed up people figure this stuff out. But ultimately, I think it is just the human condition, okay? Our core question, something I want you guys to be really thinking about throughout this time, because what we're going to do after this group is we're going to break up into smaller groups and we're going to have conversations about this, because we do need to process this with other people. And our core question is, how has the illusion of control been shattered in your life? How has the illusion of control been shattered in your life? The book talks about what the illusion of control is that control is ultimately a fantasy, that nobody has really control over anything. There's lots of proofs out there. You particularly, though, I could tell you a lot of examples of it, but you particularly have probably felt yourself in a position, you've can go back in your mind and go, I remember a time when I thought everything was going great and man, my life blew up and I had no control of it. I think everybody in this room could go there. Somebody passed away. Some crash financially happened. Some relationship you thought was going perfect and it just blew up. Man, you thought you were doing great. You thought life was going just the way you thought it was supposed to go and the rug got pulled out from under you. I think everybody has felt that before, yeah? And so this idea that control is an illusion. At some point in time, the veil is going to be taken off of you that you have life under control. And it's usually in a very painful and difficult way, right, Tanya? It can be in a really difficult way. And so that's what we're going to be talking about is what do we do with the reality that control is an illusion? And so I was trying to remember a time when I was a kid when I really felt this. And my dad had a buddy. I remember he had this friend of his who was like 5'6", 5'5". He was a really small guy. He would come over to the house. My dad never really liked to fix things himself. He was kind of a guy who just hires somebody to fix things. He had all these buddies that would come over and work on the car if he had a car issue. Or, he had a friend who could work on carpentry stuff, and he had people that could work on the furnace if that needed help or whatever. But he had this one buddy that could do all of it. He was like a jack of all trades. He's just one of these guys who could just fix anything, do anything. And so he was over at our house a lot because my dad broke things apparently a lot, and he just wasn't really good at these things or didn't want to do these things. So he hired this guy to do it, but he was a really good friend. I don't know how he knew him. He knew him for a very long time. And I just had this vision of how I remember he was just this little fella. And he was over at the house one time, and he's one of these people who very few words. That when he did speak, you listen. One of these people, he's just very quiet, but when he spoke, you listened to what he had to say. And he had just like this presence about him, even though he was kind of a small, kind of gentle soul. He's just really one of these quiet guys. And I remember I was just, I think 16, 17, I was coming out of this really awkward phase in middle school where I was bullied a lot. I was this fat kid who was we were very poor, and that's also in the book how I was just kind of bullied and beat up and had no confidence. And then I discovered football and weightlifting, and all of a sudden I had this like new spring of confidence, and I had kind of grown into I was like 5'8" in 5'7" middle school and just shot up to about 6'2" junior year and put on some muscle and about 6'2", 250 pounds. And I don't know how this came up, but this little guy was telling my dad about how he used to wrestle. And he said, wrestling is different than football. He was just talking to me about it because I was like, I was thinking about maybe going out for the wrestling team. He goes, man, it's a different kind of conditioning for wrestling than there is in football. We really would go after it, and it's just, you just have to be built a little bit different. You have to be a little more disciplined. I don't know how it happened where I kind of started to take a little bit of offense to that. I said, well, man, I'm in pretty good shape. I think I could probably take you right now. And just goofing around with him. And he goes, well, let's go right now. My dad's like, yeah, let's do this thing, right? And he's about this tall. And so I'm going to hurt him. I'm going to pin him, and it's going to be an embarrassment to him. And I'm telling you, I can remember like it was yesterday. I get down in whatever, I've never wrestled before in my life. I got down in my wrestling stance, and my dad goes, all right, go. And this guy grabs me. He turns me around, and he starts to squeeze me to the point where I felt like my intestines were going to come out of my mouth. I could not breathe. I felt like I honestly had a moment I'm going to die. This guy's going to kill me. And my dad's laughing at the whole thing. I'm like, I can't breathe. I can't. It was the most I was terrified. And then he turned me around and he turned me into a pretzel. I don't know what these wrestling guys have, some kind of leg elbow lock that he had on me. And I am screaming in pain. And again, my dad really is entertained by this whole process. And I am on the ground, and I remember telling him, stop, I'm done. Stop, I'm done. And this little guy I just remember him. It was like being in a vice. He was just so strong. And I'm 16, 17-year-olds, 7, 8 inches taller than him. I weigh a good, I'd say 70 or 80 pounds more than he did. And he tore into me like I was a rag doll. And what I want you to hear me say is that when he had me in that place where he didn't just have me submitted. He had me in so much pain that I couldn't, please stop what you're doing because it's hurting me. When I said I'm done, I wasn't asking him like, hey, I'm ready to give up and quit. I'll stop fighting you. Do you know what I was telling him to do? I was telling him to stop. You're killing me. Like I wasn't like telling him like it's a draw. I wasn't telling him like, let's just take a little break until we can go back again. I was saying like, stop, I'm going to die. I was in a great deal of pain. And so this is the best picture I can give you of what life does to us. When we feel this powerlessness and we feel like we're out of control, I want you guys to know that we're not in a position where that we're on equal ground. Like if we would have tried a little bit harder, maybe that relationship would have worked. Or maybe if I would have just white knuckled it a little bit more, my addiction could be put into a place where I could manage it. Or maybe if I just read the right book, or maybe if I got the right discipline, then I could start doing these things that I've always felt like I've made these resolutions to do, or I can manage my anger. I want you to know that when we're talking about powerlessness, when we're talking about how life is unmanageable, it's that kind of thing, is that you are thoroughly and completely whipped. And this admission of powerlessness has to look like me on the ground in a pretzel, saying, please stop. I cannot take this anymore. I am thoroughly defeated. I'm done. And how many of you like to be in that position? I just need you to know, like, I was embarrassed. I mean, I might have been starting to cry. It was so bad. I was embarrassed. I was in pain. I was on the floor. I was tangled up in a situation that I had no recourse about. My dad sure isn't going to help me. I am done. I am powerless. I'm defeated. I'm sure that guy would have given me some mercy, but if I didn't shout out, I'm in pain, stop it, I'm done, the pain would have continued. The beating would have been all the worse. And I want you to hear when I'm talking about step one and we're getting to this place of admission, it cannot be, for it to be effective, this first step, kind of a half-hearted admission. We got to get to the place where we are thoroughly and 100% invested in this idea that I cannot win against life, against addiction, against relationships, against anger, against the flesh, against the world, or against the devil. You can't do it. Everybody okay with that so far? The idea, the concept, are you catching what I'm saying? Is that you don't have a chance. When you began this world, when you came into this world, you didn't have a chance. You live in a fallen body. Adam and Eve made sure of that. You don't have a chance against sin. Sin is going to reign in your body. The Word of God's clear about that. You don't have a shot. It's not that you don't have enough discipline. It's not that you haven't tried hard enough. It's not that you have a good enough plan. You are defeated the minute you come out of the womb when it comes to sin. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? That's biblical. Go back and read about it. You don't have a shot. You're powerless. You don't have a shot about being a good person. The Bible says no one's righteous, not one person, not one. That all have sinned and fall short. You don't have a shot to be a good person. You are defeated the minute you came out of the womb. You're done. There's no shot that you're going to go through life and just make all the right choices. You're going to screw up. You don't have a shot of being a perfect person. Nobody. Not from this point on, 20 years old and on, 30 years old, 50 years old. You're going to screw up. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get broken. Every person in this room has been hurt by somebody. It's going to happen. You don't have a shot. You're powerless. This first step in recovery, admit that I am powerless and my life is unmanageable. If you grew up with this, but the best way I can describe it, this admission has to have you crying what? Do you remember? Uncle. You got to cry uncle. Anybody remember that? Glenn does. He's old. like me. Okay. Pastor Glenn remembers crying uncle. You have to say like, I'm done, I can't. It has this crying uncle in our recovery process, in our circumstances, in our relationships, in our addictions, in our day-to-day functioning. We say, I am done, I'm outmatched. I've been outmatched before I was even able to start, I'm done. And what I want you to do today is just as simple as message I give you is what I want to see happen with every person that's in this room is I want you to take a first step of the first step and admit that you're powerless. I don't want you to even surrender. I don't want you to begin to go like, here's what I'm going to do, God. This step isn't even going to that length. It's not for you to go like, okay, God, I surrender to you. This step is saying, not what I'm going to do, God, but you're getting to a place where you're saying what I cannot do. That's step one. We want you to get to the place where you surrender, and a bunch of us have, and we know that surrender is a lifestyle. But this first step is that ultimate step of humility, and it's going, I can't, I'm done. Please stop, I'm done. Help me. I can't. It's admitting what you cannot do, and it's everything. Did you know the Bible says that without God, you can do almost nothing? Is that what it says? Without him, I can do no thing. Nothing. And all I want to do is spend my time trying to convince you that there is no thing that you can do without God. And if you don't admit that, you're going to suffer until you do. You're just going to be put through more pain, and you're going to be put through more suffering and more struggle than you are going through right now until you get to the place where you say, without God, I can do no thing. The first step is not telling God what you're going to do, it's admitting what you can't do. All journeys begin with the first step, and this admission of powerlessness is the first step to your healing and your recovery. In the first chapter of the Recovery Live Handbook, page 33, we read this: life can be a cruel teacher, and it sure can. I can look in the eye of every person in this room, so many of you, and I know how cruel life can be. I know what some of you are going through, the grief that you're suffering, the pain that you're suffering, the hurt that you're suffering, the powerlessness you're experiencing, and life is cruel. Overwhelming anxiety, crushing depression, abuse that you suffered, relationship conflict. The best option we have is to say, I realize because of what I'm going through that the truth is that I am powerless and control is an illusion, and I'm going to stop trying to control things, and I'm going to say I can't. When this awareness increases, however, the book says, many of us double down on control. I want you to know in wrestling, the harder you struggle when you're in one of them holds, the more you're chancing breaking something, right? The more bad things are gonna happen if you struggle against a hold where you're done for. And that's how it goes. When we double down on control, we're just doubling down on trouble and pain. So it says we deny help, we deny the hurt, we deny our need, we yell, we scream, we manipulate, we work our fingers to the bone, and though we may do well for a time, all right, this time I'm going to try a little bit harder. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to commit to this thing. I'm going to do this. We might do okay for a time, white knuckling our problems and our pain. Each of us inevitably come to the end of our strength and our success and our resources. And there is a limit to even the strongest will. So I go, okay, this little guy is never going to beat me up again. So I go and I take jiu-jitsu lessons, and I go take karate, and I lift more weights. And I eventually go back and I say, all right, I'm ready for round 2. Maybe I beat him, but there's always going to be somebody stronger than me. There's always going to be somebody tougher than me. There's always going to be something that's going to beat me. And I love watching football, and I watch the Tom Brady's, and I watch these incredible athletes, Michael Jordan, all these guys, and Mike Tyson, got to watch him growing up just destroy people. And I watched his last fight, and he's not the same man that he used to be, because everybody gets to a place where our resources, our strength, Somebody's always going to get us if it's time. I'm going through something right now with somebody I love so much who's going through some pain in their life that was inevitable. It was coming. I hate watching it, man, but it's coming for all of us, man. I always say Christians, we're either just gone through something, we're going through something, or we're about to. I mean, that's life. And Jesus said it, in this world you will have trouble. But I watch the Tom Brady's and I watch the Mike Tyson. You watch these guys and they look like they are untouchable, but time catches up with them. Some stuff happens. It's true with all of us. The strongest of us, the best of us, we're going to experience change. We're going to experience life catching up to us. There's a limit to the strongest, and we want to give up, and we're terrified to lose control, and we resist our desire to escape, to turn to unhealthy habits and unhealthy people, and we do that. And we fail, and we fail, and we do, and shame becomes a constant companion because we think we should be stronger, and we think we should have this stuff figured out. Change seems an impossibility as we find ourselves ashamed of our inability to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, because that's what the world tells us we need to do, right? We know we must change, but we slam up against reality. Frustrating, unpleasant outgrowths of our powerlessness. And I like that language, the outgrowth of our powerlessness. When you feel, that's what I want to ask you guys just in this few minutes right here, is like when you feel that illusion of control shatter, when something terrible happens, do you know what your coping mechanism is? Do you know what it is? Could you tell me right now? I know when that rug gets pulled out from under me, exactly where I go, where the danger zone for me is, and I'll help you because I'll tell you what it is for me. When somebody hurts me, I think this is I'll tell you what the hardest thing is for me is when I trust somebody and they betray me. That's probably the hardest thing that I go through in my life. There's a lot of bad things that happen in life, but when I really put my hope and trust in somebody and they knife me in the back or let me down, that's the hardest thing for me. And do you know what I do? Here's my coping mechanism. I'm fine. You're now dead to me. I'm never going to talk to you again, or I'm never going to let you know how much that bothered me, but we're done. I'm done. I'm putting up a wall. I'm not going to let you hurt me. I'm not going to let anybody hurt me. I have this temptation to go, I'm going to go inside of this like castle of my own self-protection, and I'm just going to manage me. Nobody can take care of John like John can take care of John. That's my coping mechanism. What's yours? What do you do? Can you feel that? Maybe that's not what you do. Maybe you do something else. What do you do when the illusion of control is shattered? And today, what I'm asking you to do is to, instead of going to that place where you're trying to double, for me, when I do that, what I'm trying to do is control. I want to control my pain and my hurt. What I'm working towards in these steps is to say, in that moment, instead, I'm going to say, God, I can't do this. I can't do this thing where I feel the hurt of this person breaking me, but I can't go back to that old coping mechanism. I just can't. I am powerless. I admit it. I'm done. Not God, okay, so therefore I surrender. No, I just got to start going like, God, I can't. Go to him in prayer. God, I can't do this. I can't. I don't know what to do. I just know one thing is I am weak, I'm powerless, and I can't. Do you believe me that that's the solution? Because in that place is when God says, okay, finally, I can help you. You are ready. You are fertile ground for me to just go, all right, now. You admitted it. You said, uncle, you tapped out, and now I can actually come in and help you. But until you get to that place, I got nothing for you. I can't. Is where I want you to get today. I want you to admit it. I'm powerless. My other coping mechanism, how I handle this, don't work. What's working here is not working. The way that person hurt me isn't working. The way that I've relied on this isn't working. I just can't. And I'm going to God saying, I can't. And I'm going to an accountability partner and saying, I can't. I just can't. That's where it starts. That's all we're doing today in step one. Admit to God at the altar and in accountability with one person, I just can't. That's where I want you to get, because I want you to have everything that God has for you. And all throughout the Bible, you just watch it happen over and over and over and over and over. When Moses says, I can't. When Gideon says, I can't. When Jesus said, I can't. Did you know Jesus said that? The Garden of Gethsemane, he's like, I can't do this. Will you take this from me, this cup? When he said, nevertheless, your will be done, what he's saying is, I can't do this. I need your power to just give me through this. He had the Holy Spirit in him, same as you and I do. I can't. When Paul said he could, he's blinded at the road to Damascus. He's completely helpless. He says, I can't. I can't do this anymore. I can't. When we get to the end, there's an old hymn. When we get to the end of our hoarded resources, he giveth and giveth and giveth again. Are you at the end of your hoarded resources finally? Are you ready to say, I just can't? James 4:10 says, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord and he will lift you up. That's the promise. Saying I can't is the ultimate humility. And it's humiliating. And of course, that's the point. Are you ready to get to Ecclesiastes 4:12? The one may be overpowered. Two can defend themselves. A cord of three strands is not quickly broken. When we say, I can't, we unlock two tools. One is humility, and the other is accountability. When we say, I can't, we unlock two tools, humility and accountability. Humility unlocks the power of God to lift us up. Accountability unlocks the power of people to lift us up. Are you ready to have a humility and accountability in your life for 2025? Just say, I can't. Folks who are watching online, you guys are going to go into your people groups. You're going to start talking about this. You're going to be kind of working through this question. It says, how has the illusion been shattered in my life? But for the rest of us, we're just going to go into a time of prayer. So I wonder if you just stand with me, those who are in this room. Would you stand with me? We're going to just have a little bit of music. And you came here today, I hope, for some solutions, for some tools. I hope for some inspiration, sure, but I want you to actually act on this, to do something different this year. We're going to play a little music, and I'm just going to invite you to do something. I'm just going to invite you to just simply have one prayer that has two words in it. And those words are, I can't. I want you to bring your I can't to the altar. I want you to bring your I can't to Jesus. He'll do more than just bring you relief. I do believe when you say I can't, he will lift you up today. And he'll teach you to keep just humbling yourself. You'll live a lifestyle of humility. You'll just start to go like every day I'm going to wake up and go, I want to remind myself I can't, so God can. I just want to say I can't today. I just want to humble myself. So nobody else is looking around. And you're finally at that place where you can say, God, I don't care who's watching or what's going on. I'm ready to say I can't because I can't. And I'm ready to unlock your power that's perfected in my weakness. If you're in that place, in some area of your life, you're saying, I cannot, I can't, I'm done. Would you raise your hand? Just say, I can't, God, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't. I'm one of those people that says, I can't. I'm not going to try anymore to double down on control. I'm not going to try to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I just can't, I can't. If you raise your hand, or even if you didn't, I wonder if you just take a step, that first step and the first step, and come to this altar and just tell God, I can't. That's it. Just come to the altar and say, I can't. You don't have to come up with a solution. You don't have to come and say, Lord, here's what I need you to do next, or here's what I need to do next, or come up with some checklist of what you're supposed to do in your powerlessness. Just come and just trust that your I can't will open up God's I can. That when you say I can't, God will open up the heavens to say, therefore I can, because you can't. Let your I can't be his I can. Just come to the altar and say, I can't, God. Save me. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. But I just believe you can. And I'm just going to let it unlock your I can in this place. Would you just come? We want to pray over you. Just let's do this together. I cannot. I can't. I can't.